Winthrop School Committee, June 20th, 2016, in the Winthrop High School Library, 6 p.m. Ms. Hames, will you call the roll?
Mr. Vecchio?
Present.
Mr. Capabianco?
Present.
Mr. Holden?
Yes.
Ms. Callis? Yes. Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mr. Perrin?
Here.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes. Would we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Tino Capabianco, and remain standing after the pledge, please? Oh, was that pledge? Oh, really?
In the middle of the
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing, please.
I'd like to ask everyone to remain standing for a moment of silence. A young man passed away over the weekend that is a graduate of Winthrop High School. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So that brings us right to public comment. And we'd like to hear from everyone. Thank you all for coming. I know there's a lot on people's minds. I'm going to start with just having 2 minutes per person, and if there's time to circle back, if you have more to say, that would be fine, but we're going to start with 2 minutes, if that's okay. So if you'd like to speak, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll call on you and you can state your name. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Should I move?
I couldn't see you because you were sitting, so if you go ahead and stand, that would be fantastic. And for the audience, you can state your name. And
I'm Lisa Schott. I'm a homeowner and a parent in the community in Winthrop, and I've spoken to some of you before and written lots of letters. Lots of people have heard from me. And I wanted to talk about the potential elimination of aides in the kindergarten classrooms and how concerned I am about that issue, and to just ask everybody to find a way to prevent that from happening, because these are children who are the youngest and the most vulnerable in our community. And I think that if there's money that has to be cut out of the budget, it really shouldn't be cut from those youngest and most vulnerable. I'm an educator. I do teach first grade, and just speaking from experience, I have students who come up to me who haven't learned how to read in kindergarten, and that is an expectation now for children to learn to read in kindergarten. And without having somebody else beside you in the classroom, it is really hard to teach a child who's a non-reader to read. It's just a very complex process. It's kind of a mysterious process, and it happens when a child is comfortable and when a child has had a lot of experiences with being read to, and being in a comfortable environment and being surrounded by text and having a lot of lessons that happen in a small group. So if children are not given every possibility of learning to read in kindergarten, then they're going to rise up into first grade, and they're going to still be non-readers. And you're going to have a teacher who doesn't have an aide, who has to manage teaching a child to read and also the first grade standards with the children at the same time. This just gets to be a compounding problem. And I think that if you're eliminating aides, you're really setting up children not to be as successful as they could be. And I just want to plead with you guys to, and I know that there are many people who do feel just as strongly and passionately that this budget is a set of decisions and values of the town and the community, and that if we could just all be on the same page here about protecting the youngest and most vulnerable.
thank you, Mrs. Shaw. That was just a little over 2 minutes. Is there someone next to speak? Yes, please.
I'm Brad Gaynor. I'm also a homeowner and a parent of a 5-year-old.
Lisa Schott.
And I second everything Ms. Schott said. I think we should keep the aides no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, right behind you, Jen. She was
Hi,
first.
I'm Amelia Cantrevitz. And as you each make the decision tonight about the ESPs, I ask that you pretend that you are alone in this room. It's just you and 25-year-old children. And they can't tie their shoelaces, and they can't put a straw in a juice box. They have huge imaginations. My 5-year-old sometimes gallops like a horse because she is in her own world. So you rein them in, you keep them on track, you keep them quiet at circle time, and then you teach them what math is, and then you teach them how to read. And if that sounds daunting or impossible, I think that it is.
Thank you. Next, yep, go ahead. Can you state your name and?
My name is Duncan Dewar, also a homeowner and parent in Winthrop. My daughter just finished kindergarten here, and I got a son coming up. I'll second the ESL everybody has said here, and just imagine trying to control 15 kindergartners. They all need the help, and please don't forget, some of these kids need more intervention, and the best place to identify that is in kindergarten. So by getting them the help they need early on, they can become successful in life. Winthrop needs strong children and a strong education system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melanie Connolly, seconding what everyone has said so far. My oldest child just finished a phenomenal year at Fort Banks, and I think that has a lot to do with the yin and yang relationship between her kindergarten teacher and her ESP. And I can't say enough about not only for the academics, but how important it is, as Amelia said, to be helpful to the children. A lot of them are crying starting school. They need two people to take somebody to the bathroom, to put a Band-Aid on a child who's upset or who's hurt, and have the other person deal with the academics or whatever else is going on in the classroom. My concern is that a lot of us feel strongly that our children can get a wonderful education at Fort Banks. And I've seen it myself firsthand. I have 2 other children coming down the pipes. If we can't continue that at Fort Banks, I'm worried that this town will lose a lot of the young families like myself and everybody else sitting here, and that is a big problem. Right now, a lot of us are very comfortable starting our children at that school, and if we can't count on that level of education, I fear that people are going to either move elsewhere or put their children in school elsewhere. So that is more of a bigger town issue. So thank you for taking this into consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else?
To speak
Yes,
briefly,
sir.
Michael
Yes.
Kantrovitz, I have a daughter, Lily, who just graduated or finished kindergarten, and Nolan will be there in 2017 in September. I guess my biggest concern is when you have 23 students against one teacher, how that teacher effectively delivers the teaching plan, and whether or not they're able to get that whole plan in over the course of a year when they're running around chasing kids. It just seems completely impossible to me. And I don't think it'll affect all 23 of those students, but I think it'll affect some. And I think what you're going to find is those first grade teachers having to play catch up for what was lost in kindergarten. In the same way in second grade, they're playing catch up throughout their whole elementary school experience. And I just think we're talking about a $68,000 shortfall. There's a better place to cure that than on the backs of our 5-year-olds. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else tonight for public comment? Yes.
Hi, Mary Gail Murphy, kindergarten teacher at the Golden Fort Banks, and this is my partner in crime, Dawn Moore. We have worked together for 8 years teaching our children. If I lose Miss Donna, I don't know where I'll start come September. Right from the very first day, when I have to greet my children, welcome them into the classroom, and show them every area and center that they'll be able to work in and learn in. Miss Donna double dips the kids in everything that I put forth first and foremost, whether it's in the literacy area, the math area, science, or social studies area. Because we have a fabulous new school for our high school students and our junior high school students, it's a shame that we have to cut budgets in all the school areas, but most painfully, at the base where our youngest children just put their foot in their door for their beginning journey in academics. And I implore you, please, to keep my partner with me and all the other ESPs with the other teachers in the school, because we all feel the same. It is hugely important that we stay strong and do the best job that we can do for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Do you see any other?
Hello, I'm Susie Carson. I am a licensed educator. I stay home with my kids right now. I do have a daughter who will be going to kindergarten in a couple years, and I've substitute at all the different levels, and I have substitute in a classroom of kindergartners, and I can't imagine not having the extra help in that classroom. And so I am concerned about my daughter being here in a couple years at the Fort Banks without a teacher's aide.
Thank you. Any other public comment tonight? Seeing no public comment, we're going to move on to delegates and visitors. Mr. Superintendent, nobody tonight?
Nope.
Minutes for approval. Mrs. Callis was able to catch an error, and I believe Mrs. Haynes emailed all of us the revision. So in our packets tonight, minutes to approval of minutes for June 6th. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Callis, second. Second by Mr. Capianco. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. The warrants for tonight, we have warrant SVW 16-22 in the amount of $155,076.10. Payroll warrant dated May 18th, 2016 in the amount of $682,850.73. The payroll warrant dated June 1st, 2016 in the amount of $811,806.49. And budget transfers in the amount of $175,039.34. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Vecchia, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Capianco. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Susan, is that what you needed? Is there a final warrant? Did I get all of those? On the agenda, it says final warrant. Is that?
Yes, that's the final warrant we have to do. We have to have it to the town by the 15th, so we just need a meeting just to sign. It'll be a warrant and
Okay, so that's
the
not
last
tonight.
No, that's
Okay.
on the 11th
Okay, thank you.
of July.
Yep. Okay, buildings and grounds requests. We have Winthrop High School boys basketball alumni game, class of 2018 car wash, Winthrop High School varsity cheer camp, and that has come with appropriate paperwork and payment. Is there a motion to approve them all together? By Mr. Capianco, second by Vice Chair Perrin. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Do we have to vote on the budget transfer request?
We did. It was part of the four. Did you?
Okay. This is, that's right.
We're on to curriculum, Looney Math Program. Mr. Woods, do you have something for us?
Yeah, good evening. I come tonight to speak to you a little bit about what's gone on with the Looney Math Program and the Looney Consulting Group. Looney Consulting came in to the district in April and did some visits to classrooms and provided us with a report. What's more important to us than the report, which was important, was what we're doing about some of the things that were brought up in the report. Respectfully, Mr. Herity, who is the chairman of the subcommittee, the math subcommittee we have going right now, has asked if he could be put on the agenda at some future date over the summer. He has a really nice presentation to make about not only what was found, but what some of the action steps are. So not to take any of his thunder, but to just give you a couple of highlights. At the elementary level, one of the things we're looking at is continuing our relationship with Looney Math Consulting and doing the professional development we think is so important for our teachers. We have them scheduled currently for August 31st, which is one of our professional development days. We just finished scheduling that, and it's going to be the morning at the Fort Bank School, I believe the afternoon at the ATC School. Piggybacking off of that will be 10 marks training for our first and second grade teachers, as well as our 8th grade teachers and any of our new staff. That'll be in the afternoon at the Fort Bank School, and it will be in the morning for the new middle school. So we have a full math day of professional development in store for the teachers there. I had the opportunity to meet with the high school math lead teacher and Ms. Callis the other day. We had a really, I thought, very productive meeting where we had an opportunity to really kind of discuss not so much the what we're presenting at the high school level, but more the how we present it. And Ms. Callis can speak about this if she'd like. But it was a very productive meeting. We came out of that meeting on the same page that we need to modify the approach to what we're doing with a lot of the students. One of the things the Looney report pointed out was there was a high failure rate amongst our Algebra 1 students, and we're trying to come up with primarily, that's our first goal, is to find a method of teaching these students that's going to be a more successful way for these kids to learn. We think we've focused in on one. We're going to spend the rest of the summer. There's been a trail of emails that went back and forth all day Friday about getting us electronic permission to go on and take a look at some of these places, also to go and visit some of these places, and we're all working together, sort of using Ms. Callis's expertise and Mr. Beck's expertise and my expertise to kind of dovetail this whole thing together and find if we can come up with a way. One of the possible end results, though, to be very honest with you, is going to end up probably with Mr. Perez at some point. The last new book in the math department that was purchased was over 9 years ago. And that's something that we really need to take a look at, not only as a school department, but as a town. As a town, look at our resources and what that entails. So if Ms. Callis wants to add, if you want to add anything, feel free, but I think that's...
Good.
So, one of the things that the Looney, and I wonder if we can share it now that the staff has had a chance to look at it with the school committee, is a level of disengagement and focus on procedural knowledge in math classes instead of conceptual understanding and the big ideas. And given that we haven't bought new textbooks since before even the Common Core standards, we might be due for some new materials, and we've been looking at materials that can support teachers in collaboration and conceptual understanding and problem solving versus just teacher talk at the chalkboard and students repeat what's happening. So I just brought some resources. I think that over the summer, Mr. Crombie and Mr. Beck and the math teachers there will be looking at what would be a good fit for them. But we might end up looking for how we can afford buying some textbooks and some professional development to support new textbooks and online materials.
Any questions for Mr. Woods?
I'm
Mr. Holden?
concerned and confused. That's why I was looking at the budget transfer. I don't know if we took one vote on the warrant, then another vote on the transfer. Was it just one vote for everything?
We put them all together.
Okay, I missed it. Usually it's separate. My apologies. We did nothing but decrease money out of almost every textbook line. But now you're here saying we need money for textbooks, which we had the money for textbooks, but we didn't spend it. So I'm just confused. We had the money, we knew we needed them, but we didn't buy them.
Well,
now we're putting the money back, and now you're saying we need them. Not you, I'm just saying
Yeah.
the department, administration.
I do think that we don't want to just buy textbooks blindly. We want people to consider what's going to work for them. I did take a look at that, so maybe we should go ahead and sort of.
I know one of the things we were looking at over the past couple of years was e-book purchases that never really materialized. One of the reasons this year we didn't push it any further was because the iPads were moving to a different school and were going to a different format. E-books are good, but they're a one-time purchase. And e-books don't have any of the ancillary materials that come with the textbook series. So when you buy a license to a book, whether it be a 4-year, 5-year, they go up to 8-year license. I mean, that's when you get all of the ancillary materials, you get the electronic version, you get a classroom set of books also. No matter what publisher you talk to, when they talk about electronic versions of things, and that's fine, they all recommend, though, that there be one hard copy set of texts in the classroom. The problem we have right now is that you saw the list I sent to the school committee of the inventory of books that we currently have in the Winthrop Public Schools, especially at the secondary high school level. It's a major outlay of money for what we need to do. I mean, we're starting to talk about in terms of making this a capital improvement plan as opposed to just a line item budget. Once it's established, once it's corrected, then we could go back to say, okay, here's our plan, here's a cycle, here's how we're going to do this every 4 years. We're going to look at this series, and then we're going to look at the Algebra 1 series again. You can start to get into a cycle. But what's happened is over the past 10, 15 years, it's just been, staff and programs versus hard materials, and it's just kind of gotten askew. And now to make that correction, it's not only in math, it's a correction that has to be made in the sciences, it's a correction that has to be made in the world languages and the history programs. So it's a major outlay of money that we need to start looking at in order to correct where we're currently at.
Sorry.
Go ahead if it's related to what's
Yeah,
what's happening.
what was it that you were looking at that?
Several line items in the
Right.
transfer.
And this
So-
is-
English textbooks, more language textbooks,
And so-
math textbooks, more science
Okay.
textbooks. I mean, every discipline, social studies textbooks.
And so this is, this represents, we did not.
We
use
decreased, basically took the money out of those line items for the purchase of those books.
that for this past year.
Because this
Yes.
past year, they were not spent.
No, I understand it wasn't spent, and that's what I'm
Right,
saying.
and I agree with you on that. And so the question that's come down now is that if we're going to put money in these line items, then we should be using the money for those line items. Otherwise, if we're not, then we don't put the money in those line items.
Well, what should
So-
have happened is, we should have been advised through the last 12 months saying, you know what, let's decrease 5 of the line items and put all the funds into science this year and get that program up and running.
And we have done that in various schools. We have done that. We've moved monies from science areas to purchase science materials or group them up so that we could do it for the Fort Banks and for the Arthur T. Cummings. And we've grouped those up in the past, and we have those purchases of what we've done on that. What we're doing now is we're getting into the high school aspect and finding out why, what is the issue there? What's the main concern? Why are we not spending, or what are we doing? Originally, we budgeted those items for ebooks, for all of that type of stuff. And they changed that as the course of action through the direction of the building. And, but we need a better plan on it, and that's what we're working on.
I mean, I can speak a little bit, so this is off the loony topic, but it's related. I mean, in this year alone, we have now put in place a complete grade 3 to grade 5 science curriculum, which we had none. That is now ready to roll out in September. We've put in a complete 6 to 8 science program, lab aids, that is state-of-the-art, ready to go. That's been purchased, that's coming to the new school. We, for the first time, were able to push 10 marks, which is the math program, not only because it was focused on 3, 4, 5, we were able to push that down to 1, 2, and then up to 6, 7, 8. So now our entire grades 1 through 8 will have access, computer access to this 10-mark program, which is an outstanding math program for our kids. We were able this year to push the Lexia, the Lexia program from down at the Fort Banks where it was, but all 3 components of it. The SMI, which is the measured math, the SRI, the measured reading, and the reading counts, which is another one. That again goes all the way now from K to 8. We now can run, so we have that program. We also have there was one other we did too, the SMI, Lexia, that's it, Lexia, 10 marks. So we have been pushing out some curriculum products to the schools. As Mr. Massaro said, now you're starting to focus on the high school as opposed to the K to 8 level, and that's our next big area of focus.
I think specifically tonight, we want to be careful about our budget and not, I agree with Mr. Holden, not be having a lot of transfers for things that we predicted we would purchase but didn't. And so for the next, we don't have to talk about this now. In fact, we won't talk about it now, but for the next budget, I do see textbooks in the line items, and perhaps for curriculum, we can see a priority of this grade, this subject matter, this grade, this subject matter, like what are the priorities so that we're not in the same situation next June.
Absolutely.
Is there any other question or comment from Mr. Woods? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Woods. We have some subcommittees that happened. I think we'll start with buildings and grounds. Mr. Vecchia, do you want to report to us, please?
Yes, we met on June 13th at 5 o'clock at the Harvey Hearing Room. Present was myself, Don Sullivan, John Massaro, DPW Director, and also the Facilities Director. And on the agenda was several things, ongoing maintenance, which I'll cover in a second, but the main thing was the boiler and the hot water heater that needs to be replaced at the Fort Banks School. And the committee made a recommendation to the full committee to ask the town to appropriate or take out of the town's capital maintenance account $32,000 for a new water heater and $42,000 for a new boiler at the Fort Bank School. In addition to that, there are some water issues in rooms 121 and 125, as well as a leak in the library, and we're recommending $20,000 be taken from the school committee budget. I guess John can address that if it needs to be. The other item on the agenda was, that we spoke briefly about, was the ongoing maintenance program, which is the new program that's being implemented by the system. With the new school, we're tying in all of the other properties that is under the jurisdiction of the school department. Everything's going to be computerized so that everything gets addressed when it's supposed to be addressed, whether it's the replacement of filters, replacement of tanks, or whatever. And we made a recommendation that at some point in time in the near future, they do some type of a demonstration, come in here and give us an overview for the full committee, so they can explain. The facilities director will come in and explain how the thing is going to work. Because it's going to keep the buildings the way they're supposed to be. That's one of the big criticisms that it's been, that the school department has been taken, is through the years the school maintenance budget has never been up to par. We haven't taken care of the schools and so forth. This is designed to implement a program that will guarantee that our schools will stay up to par. So. That's it.
The other part of that, Mr. Vecchio, is that we have, for the middle school, the boiler issue that we have.
Yes.
Not middle school, this school.
This school.
This temporary high school, old middle school, that the facilities director has, the parts are paid for to
Right.
fix the boiler, but they will charge us labor because it was not exactly under warranty or something.
Well, it passed its warranty, which was
Past its
2
warranty.
years.
So
of
the
course.
company was willing to give us the parts for free and charge us for labor, and we approved to go ahead and do
Like
that from the school budget.
$2,800, something like that.
$2,800. Right.
That's it.
You want to talk about the 9,000 versus 42,000?
We could. There's a potential of upgrading one of the boilers at the Fort Bank School or replacing it. And the difference between replacing it and just fixing it is $9,000 versus, what was the figure, 52?
42.
42,000. So that's something we're going to have to evaluate. One of the problems, I am told, at the Fort Bank School, as the holding tanks that they initially put in were too small. And these holding tanks hold water that go into the system when it's needed. And evidently, this holding tank ages the water so that when it goes into the system, it's accepted. It's not like too fresh. And what's happened through the years is it's caused corrosion. And that's been one of the problems. So we've already addressed the holding tanks.
The expansion tanks. The
Expansion tanks.
Yep.
But the question is whether or not we want to spend $9,000 to fix the boiler completely or replace it.
The boiler is 15 years old, so Mr. Safuni was kind of arguing the case that you might spend $9,000 to get a couple more years out of it versus $42,000 to get 15 more years out of it. So that's a decision that might have to be made by us.
Right.
Or the superintendent. Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Vecchio. There was a policy subcommittee tonight. Are you prepared to report on it, or you want to wait till next meeting?
We can report on it.
Okay.
Since I don't have a copy of the policy, I don't know if it counts as the first reading, but.
No,
Okay.
probably not. You can just say what you addressed, and we'll do it next time.
We looked at the building and ground security policy, and we decided to add, if a security concern presents itself during non-school hours, as happened, the superintendent or his designee will suspend school until the grounds have been deemed safe and secure by Winthrop Police Department and/or Winthrop Fire Department, as well as the building and grounds manager or his designee. So we just added that component, and we'll have the first reading next meeting, I guess.
Thank you. And then we had a budget subcommittee. Mr. Capabianco.
We had a very exciting budget subcommittee meeting last week on Tuesday, June 14th at the Harvey Room. Subcommittee members present were Ms. Sullivan, Ms. Callis, and myself.
Mr. Vecchia and Mr. Parent were also in attendance as school committee members. We had a very lengthy public comment in regards to the ESPs, which are very similar to what we heard here this evening. We spent a lot of time on the FYI budget for this year. Mr. Macero presented us with a list of potential possibilities which we could do with the budget in terms of the ESPs. And we did take a favorable vote at that night, that meeting, 2-1. And on your sheet here, it's option 3, which would call 4 ESPs as floaters for the kindergarten level and would leave some remaining funds in contingency. Mr. Macero also spoke in depth about the parachute substitute teaching program.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table that does not need a second. Do you remember what that motion is? Can you read it?
Oh, it was
Would you
option 3?
Would you read that out
Yep.
loud?
Recall 4 ESPs as a floater for kindergarten levels, remaining funds in contingency.
How much?
$35.76.
$3,576.
So we can have a
So,
discussion
so
now?
there's discussion on that motion. Yep.
Is that? On the options,
Who
I'm
wants to
sorry.
first? That's okay. Go ahead, Mr. Holden.
On the options that was given to us, I'm just a little confused. It says, original reduction of 15 ESPs.
Right.
Have reduced to 9.
Right.
So
So
Mr. Macera has presented us with these new options that we didn't have at the budget subcommittee.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what your question is, Mr. Holman.
Oh, good. I'm looking at option 6. It says, add all 7 ESPs
Right.
back.
Right.
What happened to the other 2? If there were 9 still.
So there
reduced
were
in-
2, so we had 8. We originally, we were reducing 8 from special ed department and 7 from the kindergarten aides. And so that equaled 15. We were able to bring back 6 currently for the special ed department, and we're able to staff it accordingly. So we have 45 ESPs that are coming back for special ed, and we're good there. We feel very good on that area. Now the question was, if we bring back additional ESPs that we can we return those to the kindergarten classroom? And on that meeting the other day, I put together some options that said you can have 3, you can have 4. This is what it would look like if you had 6, and this is what it would look like if you had 7. And on the 7th one, on that meeting that day, there were shortfalls that were happening. And then, so over the course of, since last, I don't know when we met, was it Tuesday? Tuesday through right up until this afternoon, I've been working on trying to come up with other options too, to explore. I know that you have a motion right there, out there on the table right now to discuss, so I'm not sure how you want
Well, so what we need to
proceed.
do is just discuss this motion, vote it yes or no, or amend it. Is what has to happen sort of procedurally. So we can have discussion, Mr. Capabianco.
I would like to, at the time of that meeting, I felt it was important that we left with a majority of what we were asking for, but I would like to withdraw my motion and make a motion for option 2 for tonight's, to discuss option 2 of tonight's report, to have all 7 ESPs back in the classrooms.
Just a point of order, I believe he can withdraw it if you withdraw the second. That's the only way they can withdraw it. Otherwise it goes, you can make an amendment on top of your.
Okay.
Or we can vote it down.
Right.
So why don't we just vote it down instead of getting crazy?
Well, I think we need to have discussion first.
Discussion.
Well, I agree
Thought
that
we already
it should be voted down because these options look better.
So, okay.
Yes, Mr. Driscoll.
So the other 2 options that we're seeing tonight for the first time, they'll come up under new business during the budget.
Correct.
So we can
I'd like to
vote this
withdraw
down,
my
and then these 2, both of these motions can be made at the time under new business. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It sounds correct.
Okay.
So
So
let's have a roll call vote on the motion from the budget subcommittee. Which is to add 4 floater kindergarten ESPs for a total cost of $93,993, and which would keep $3,576 in a contingency fund. So, Ms. Hames, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Vecchia?
No.
Mr. Capabianco?
No.
Mr. Holden?
No.
Ms. Callis?
No.
Mr. Driscoll?
no.
Mr. Perrin?
No.
Ms. Sullivan?
No. Okay, so that motion has been voted down. So we'll take up the options in a little bit. So, Mr. Superintendent, do you have a report for us tonight?
I do. I have a short report for you tonight because I anticipate some more discussion on the other issues. But in regards to Winthrop Public Schools, we closed schools last week, as you all know, on Thursday for students. We are now in the midst of the summer vacation for our students. However, we are also in the midst of a big move. So the move has begun today. The first thing that was taken care of was the cleaning out of the classrooms at the Arthur T. Cummings. Tomorrow, the third grade will be moved back and returned to the Arthur T. Cummings. And probably by Wednesday, that should be completed. The third grade teachers are coming in Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week to unpack, to put stuff away. We felt that that was better than having those crates sit there all summer at an expense. So they will be coming in to do that for us, and then we will be able to return those crates as part of savings for the school building. The school itself is scheduled and will be turned over to the town and the schools as of July 1st. We're looking very much forward to it. I don't know how much you've seen since you've gone by, but the landscape is pretty much almost all completed. I believe we're looking for the grass next. It's pretty exciting. It's a pretty exciting time to have the school building be ready for us to come in and be a part of. So what's going to happen from that point on, as you know, there is the Viking Pride event on July 2nd, and then after that, on July 5th, all the furniture and equipment will be delivered that has been purchased for the new school, and the technology aspects will begin there. That should take us probably a good month to get the majority of that equipment in, and then hopefully once that equipment is in, we will then open it up for faculty to start to be able to come in on their choice if they wish to set up their rooms and get familiarized with the building. We will organize a time for parents and students of the high school, middle school students to come through and take a tour of the building at some point in August. We will have an open house before school begins so that everybody can get accustomed to that. And then September 22nd that I talked to you about at the last meeting will be the night that we will do a dedication. We've confirmed that with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. That will be at 7 p.m. the dedication, but at 6 o'clock, that'll be for the community to be able to come to the building, and we will have tours and everything for
Can you say that date again?
September 22nd, that Thursday. And that will be open for everyone. That's because there's been a lot of questions. There's also been some confusion where people feel like, well, I can't come to the Viking Pride night, but can I come to another night? And the Viking Pride, just a reminder, is a fundraiser by Viking Pride. That's a fundraiser that they do, and those funds go back. They can only go towards the schools when their board seems, seems that that's the appropriate action at the time. But part of their thing is that there are tours that will happen that evening, and that's July 2nd. So we're, as I said, we're very excited about it. In regards to the closure of school, we had a successful, first of all, the 8th grade had a successful DC trip. Once again, we made sure that parents were kept well aware. I know 2 weeks ago we were planning on attending, and those 4 days were wonderful. And this year it was nice because DC was actually 75 degrees as opposed to 90 degrees. But our 8th grade students then did their moving on ceremony last week, and they were the last class to move on from this building. And so that's something that I told them in about 30 years from now, they'll be bragging about that at some point. But now at this point, they don't care. And they had their moving on celebration. At the Arthur T. Cummings, Mr. Herity had step-up days for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. And so they had some wonderful ceremonies there that had, moved the kids, and they put some great closure to the buildings. And I know that at the William P. Gorman School, they had their annual field days, and part of the step-up days to help. Mrs. Pearson, you know, she had these third grade students for 2 straight years, so it was kind of hard for her to let go of some of those students because she's had them for almost, some students there, 5 years, from pre-K right up through grade 3. So we have lots going on in the summer. Of course, the main focus right now will be the move to make sure that we get everything up and running for the new building. We also have multiple hires that we will be bringing in, but for the most part, a lot of our hires at the middle school, from Mr. Curley, he has had those recommended. The high school right now is in process of some of their postings, and at the elementary levels, we are pretty much set to go, with the exception of a couple of little changes. And so that's really where we're at. I mean, it was just a matter of a lot of closure over the last couple of weeks, and now we'll get ready to start, take a breath, and move forward to the new year. And my primary focus that I've been working on for the last week and a half continuously has been the budget, which when we get to the budget tonight, I will present a couple of options that I've put together moving forward so that maybe we can resolve some of the issues that have been out there.
All right, personnel?
Under personnel, we had no appointments. We did have a resignation from Jill Lavasia, grade 6 ELA teacher. We did have one resignation that came in, but it came in after this meeting on Friday. Mr. Campbell, our physics teacher at the high school, he teaches AP physics. That is it's a big loss. Mr. Campbell came in when I came in 5 years ago. Mr. Campbell has chosen to move on to Watertown. So we have immediately posted that position, even though it's not on here right now. We don't have any retirements at this current time. For postings, we've posted grade 6 ELA, the Winthrop High School nurse, and just to remind you of the policies on the nurse, we will interview the nurse candidates, but the finalist or the recommendation of the nurse, we recommend to the school committee. It's one of those roles where the school committee has to approve the appointment of a nurse. So that will be coming to your attention probably in the next meeting. We had special ed teachers, therapeutic program, Winthrop High School, part-time music teacher. Reason we've gone to part-time at the Winthrop High School on that, it's primarily we've had our enrollment numbers for music are very low. We've got enough enrollment for 2 classes at this time. One would be for chorus, a high school chorus, and the other would be for a music theory class. We felt very hesitant to say, well, we won't have it at all. We've worked very hard to build it, and we know that there's a lot of music from the lower ranks that's coming up there very shortly. So we wanted to make sure that at least we had the ability to continue some of that music going. We have an additional guidance counselor at Winthrop High School, an adjustment counselor at Winthrop High School, health and wellness Winthrop High School, and the high school Spanish teacher. Leave of absence, we have one teacher who is on a maternity leave and has requested a 1-year leave of absence. And so that's been approved.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I have.
Yes.
I'm going back to the height. I'm concerned about the brain drain with the science department. I mean, students have formed close attachments like Mr. Ito, Mr. Campbell, and others, and I'm just concerned that these high-level disciplines are now unfilled, and it's 2 that I'm aware of.
Well, the chemistry one is filled, and the biology one was filled. What happened on the biology is we moved the 8th grade biology teacher who was teaching 8th grade, and he did 1 biology class at the high school. He moved up to the high school full-time.
With that certification?
To be yes. Mr. Davis, he's up there. And at the last meeting, we informed everybody that we hired Ms. Dagnott, who is a experienced high school chemistry teacher from Newton Public Schools, who has taught AP and been their AP coordinator over there. And so I feel very strongly that she was a good catch for us to come here. So now we're going to go out and do the same thing here. We're going to take a look at the physics. We've posted that. AP physics, these are difficult positions, and so we take a look at that, and quite frankly, we take a look at that as well when it comes to finances, because you've got to compete on that
Yes.
level. And so we made sure that we competed on the level for the chemistry as best that we can within the direction that we have on our scales for the union salaries. And when it comes to the physics, we will do the same.
Ms. Callis?
Do we conduct exit interviews with folks who leave us?
They are conducted through the Human Resources Department.
Okay, I'd love
So-
to find out people's reasons for leaving, if it is
Mhm.
salary or if it is other.
I can tell you that sometimes it's for convenience sake. Other times it's hard to resist some of the salary. I mean, when we compete, we've lost a few people. What's interesting is this time we got somebody from Newton that's coming to Winthrop. But part of that charm is that that person lives in Winthrop. And so it's been a nice charm to have that. But a lot of times when we've lost people to some of the urban communities, it's been because of the reason of a salary. You know, it could be anywhere difference between $6,000 to $12,000 difference of a salary. I will say that the salaries of incoming people that are coming in are much more attractive now for Winthrop than they ever have been in the past. The step 3 salary of a first master's step at 47,747 was a lot more attractive than, you know, what the original first step was, as well as, and that will improve too over the next couple of years on that. So, you know, but we also offer a unique. What I will tell you is that we've had some people that have left and come back, and others who have not come back but have sent me saying, you know, I really miss that opportunity that I had in Winthrop too. So there's good with bad, but obviously money is an issue, and understandable. On some teachers, it is the distance, it's location, or it's just a change of career. And in Mr. Ito, it was a change of career.
Yeah.
So.
Anything else? All right, so we'll move on to new business, and which is the fiscal year 17 budget. And before we begin with discussion of how the money is spent, just to be clear that this $21,956,909.00, is that the right figure, Mr. Perez?
Yes.
Is an amount that is a bottom line amount that we have to have a vote on tonight if we're going to accept that dollar amount, correct? Which is the dollar amount that has been allocated from the town last Tuesday night at the town council meeting, correct?
Right. And
Okay.
go ahead.
So that amount is just our bottom line that we have to vote on, whether or not we vote on ESPs or not ESPs. This amount has to be approved or not approved, but if it's not approved, I don't know what we do next. So.
Well, the issue on that amount, just so that you're aware, is that it's much bigger than you sent forward.
Yes.
You had sent forward 18,591, and for an operating budget. But this budget came back at the 21 million. Can I see that for a second? 21,956,909 dollars, and part of what is included in that is the $18,191,310 operating budget, $125,544 for workmen's compensation, $100,000 that they've put in for unemployment, $2,558,000 for group insurance that the schools of our school employees, pension appropriation of $777,098, and then Medicare for $204,957. So in the past, it was the town that handled all of those expenses, and we handled the operating expense. Moving forward, we now are going to be in control of all of those expenses, and which I'm very in favor of. And part of that is because if there is a savings in those particular areas, those are savings that can benefit the school department then and now, as opposed to down the road, or something that goes into free cash and then it goes to the town and then you've got to go back. So these are our employees, it's our responsibility, and with Mr. Perez on board, he understands our budget as well, and so I'm confident that in working with these figures, that we will be in good shape on that. Now, so that's where the 21,956, 909, the difference is, that's unusual from the past. In regards to the operating budget, if I may, I'll just take on one of the things that I've looked at, is that we have been faced with quite a bit of different decisions as we've moved on and tried to come up with what we felt was the best options moving forward for the schools. And Mrs. Pearson and I, especially when it gears down to the William P. Gorman School, we've taken a look and we've listened very carefully, and as I've stated from day one, my goal has always been to try to return anybody that we had to remove from a classroom back to the classroom. So tonight, in order to try to put what I've done is put together two options. Option one is we have kindergarten classes, instead of 7 kindergarten classes, we have 6 kindergarten classes and 6 ESPs. So each class would have if there's a kindergarten class, there's an ESP. So I think what we have to do is move forward saying, if we're going to have a kindergarten class, there's an ESP, so that this discussion doesn't continue on in years to come, or however, if that's the direction that we want to go in, that's the direction we do, and we move in that direction. The kindergarten position that would be, if we didn't have a 7th kindergarten class at this time, that kindergarten position would move to an open 2nd grade class that we have. We have this current year in the circuit breaker, currently we had $450,000 that's projected through also some reserves that we have that will be used towards the tuition, out-of-district tuition cost. We're increasing that to $500,000 through our projections of what we are to receive next year, because we did a lot of work. That was part of one of the things that we were doing this week, was really taking a look at and trying to itemize and find out what it is that we should be receiving back. This would keep the custodians at 15 for the district. We have currently on hand for moving for next year, I'd like to keep 4 at the William P. Gorman School, 4 at the Cummings School, and 7 at the high school. I still feel a little short at the high school, but I feel it's a good start to move. And when I say high school, I mean middle school, high school. All ESPs there were 3 ESPs that were let go due to the budget crunch at this time. They would be rehired, and we would have a remaining contingency fund at this time of $33,632. And the reason why that contingency is important, as opposed to having like $3,000 or $4,000, is we still have teachers that are moving across lanes. And so I always want to make sure that we're there, that we project that is going to be there for monies that are going to come in. It also allows us the opportunity, in case there's an issue that does arise that comes up that is of a concern. And then there's option 2. Option 2 would be to have 7 kindergarten classes and 7 ESPs. All of the same, with the exception of I would have to reduce the custodians down from 15 to 13 district-wide, and I would put William P. Gorman and the Arthur T. Cummings would be 3 each, and the high school would remain at 7. Now, currently, we have 4 positions of the high school, for custodians open, so there would be no positions technically lost. It would just be, no persons, but just the position. And what's interesting on that basically the 2 custodians and the teacher in the ESP tend to mirror each other in funding when I did the reduction there. And the remaining contingency fund is about $300 less than the one on option 1. So it's $33,362. So those were the options that I moved forward. I felt comfortable moving forward on it. I think that I have to express that by no means was Mrs. Pearson saying that there was not a value to an ESP or to a person that's supposed to be in certain classrooms. What we've done is when we've worked together on these types of things is we've looked at all the options and we have vetted out all the options. And When it gets to this time of year, there are certain savings that we have seen that have happened through the savings. We had 3 retirements this year that gave us significant savings moving forward that allowed us to bring back additional ESPs. There are savings from different hires that have moved on that have allowed us these types of things. So I feel comfortable moving forward with these options. Preferably at this time, I'm fine either way. I would say option 1 would be my recommendation, only because I'm concerned about the maintenance of the issues. I want to make sure that our buildings continue to be maintained properly, and I'm uncomfortable in saying, okay, we can just go down from 4 to 3 and then think we're going to be okay on that. But as you see, that hopefully that contingency fund will grow, and as time moves on, we still have till September. So those are the things that I've put together and for your discussion.
So 2 years ago, before we made this transition, former Fort Banks and Arthur T. Cummings both had 3 custodians.
That is correct.
And for the past 2 years, they've had 4 custodians.
They've had 4. So what we did is we brought 5 to here, 4 to the Fort Banks, and 4 to the Cummings. And you're absolutely correct on that. But what it has allowed us is to make sure that during the day, when you have 2 people on in the daytime, one that opens up and then another one that comes in, and it keeps it rolling much better for the flow of the school day during the day with lunches. I mean, that's the primary purpose during the school day.
Yes, Mr. Perrin.
So option 2 leaves us exactly the way we are now, but 2 less custodians than what you're looking for.
Correct.
Done.
Yes, Mr. Holden.
First, let me just say, the value of an ESP is as equal as the value as the AP physics teacher, if not more, with what they have to do with the young child. That wasn't with this. Class size has always been something I've been concerned about for 10 years. Option 1, what's class size?
So option 1
class size.
right now is, we were anticipating 140 students. Right now, currently, kindergarten has officially 110 students that have registered. We anticipate there's 14 students from preschool that have still not registered, according to Judy. So that would bring us up to 124, and we always anticipate at least another 15 to possibly 20. So you could have, so let's say 140. So if you go with option 1, you're at about 23 to a class. With 2, if you're at option 2, you're at 20 to a class.
Okay, thank you.
And currently in kindergarten, there's about 20 in each class, 2021. Do we hear from Mrs. Pearson?
Yeah, this year I believe there's about 18 to 20.
19.
That was close, 18 to 20.
Okay. So option 123 would be significantly higher.
Right.
And as far as custodians, I'm sorry, again, I keep doing it to you. We're reducing the number of students in Fort Banks and Arthur T. Cummings next year, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Just a question for the superintendent. What is COTA in the budgets?
So that's
There are 2 items in the Fort Banks budget that I don't know what those are.
Okay, those are they're called COTAs. They're occupational therapists.
Okay.
Assistants.
Okay.
They work with there's an occupational therapist.
Registered.
OTR registered, right? And then they're the assistants that handle a lot of the actual work, and the other ones can do all the testing.
Okay, thanks. I didn't know.
But I've resolved those issues on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Perrin?
I'd like to put forward option 2 as it remains the same, with 2 less custodians that currently are unfilled.
I second that.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table for option 2. Is there a discussion on the motion?
I
Mrs.
just
Callis?
sorry, a question for you, Mr. Superintendent. How would that, do you think that would impact the maintenance, and would we start to see an impact on our?
Well, I would keep William P. Gorman and the Arthur T. Cummings at 3. And the reason for that is the new high school has got 187,000 square feet, and there's so much activity that's going on at the high school after school that I just believe that that's where it's at. And if this option passes, I will continue to work hard to see what we can do to add some additional support for custodian when we can.
Mr. Perry?
I'm sorry.
And then-
Go ahead.
Are we going to have any funds left over that the town is going to be sweeping back? Are we closing out at a point where we're at zero? Or do you think there'll be some funds left over?
Well, that's for the school building you're talking about?
Oh, I'm talking about the current budget, as we close out the year.
Oh, we don't know that yet.
Yeah.
We're working on that. We've got one more, now we're payroll, we're in the final payroll, so we're hopeful that we
I
can.
called Susan for that today.
Right.
And thank you.
No,
But
I won't-
that-
probably won't even know until mid-July.
Right, but those, you can't turn that money over for next year. You have to.
No, I understand, but what I'm saying is, as it goes back into the general budget, we might want to approach the town to say,
if we have any.
if we have
I
money
doubt
left.
that that's gonna happen, but
But
I'm
we'll-
just being
But anything
honest.
we have, I'd like to see if we can go to transfer it back, and we can capture at least one more custodian back for
Well,
that 1 year.
we're close, right now, we're close to one more, but we have to, like I said, I have to build up and see where we're at. But, as I've stated, and I will continue to state, this is June 20th. You've seen how these budgets can drastically change in a month. Sometimes, unfortunately, because we have lost people in some, and I don't want to. And that's, the good news is we're not losing people as much as we have in the past, and that's good.
So on the subject of the remaining balance in the current budget, if that occurs, that would need to wait until free cash is certified in the late fall in order for us to be able to use that for the budget. So that really wouldn't
help
be as impactful, and then it would be using free cash to fund a position that's in the operating budget, which is something that I don't like using one-time revenues for.
Do we have sufficient funds in the circuit breaker that we could back out more to hire an additional custodian? So we're really kind of
I've
status
backed
quo?
out as much as I honestly believe that I can do right now to get us to put the ESPs back in the classrooms. I mean, that's really, I'm putting my projections out there and saying I'm taking that risk to say that's where I think we're at. If I believe that over the next couple of months or something, or the month that looks like that's going to be better for us, we're also still waiting on the state to fulfill their end of the budget process. And one of the big pushes is we're making sure that that circuit breaker stays exactly as it was this time, so.
Mr. Vecchia?
What was the history again with the amount of
Custodians?
custodians?
Previous to the school
3
closing.
per building.
It was 3, yeah, it was 3 at the elementary schools.
Now, as you proceed, because I know this is a work in progress, the budget has always been a work in progress. Is this going to be on the top priority to get the 2 janitors rehired?
Yes.
Over anything else?
I mean, I don't know that, for example. I mean, to me, if you're asking me on my perspective, yes, because I want to make sure that we get some, that the maintenance is there and we're moving. I mean, part of the other good thing about when you have the 4 in your building is that if somebody is sick or somebody's not there, because you remember you have one person in the daytime and then you have 2 evening people, and so it's hard to get that evening person to come in during the daytime when you need that. So there are those issues on it. So it's worked out. We used to have 5 to 6 custodians per building years ago, but whenever we dealt with cuts, the maintenance was always the first to go, and hence why we saw issues there go from years to come on it. But in this particular case, I'm okay going to 3 at those 2 buildings. I'm not okay reducing at the high school, middle school level, because if you walk through that building, there's just so much ongoing maintenance that has to happen on a daily basis with all that glass and everything that's happening there. Now, the other part is that we will be able to take a look at the maintenance and the custodial budgets, because we're carrying forward the budgets that we normally carry forward with this, but there may be some consolidation that happens with the high school, middle school in regards to supplies. There may be some consolidation in regards to maintenance agreements there that will help on us, because right now, when you take the middle school and the high school and you put those numbers together, that's a much larger number than you would have had in any particular building. So I just have to learn, and I have to live and make sure that those happen. And so it's all new on that area.
And I would say that it is a priority to keep 4 in both of the schools, the elementary schools, because all we heard was, messy bathrooms and things needed to be
Right.
clean and things weren't up to par from parents. I was a parent at the time when there was 3, and there was a lot of work to be done, and the custodian is tied up during those 2 or 3 lunch
Right.
periods that are there.
Mhm.
So if something's happening on the second floor and the custodian's tied to the cafeteria at that time, to have that second person there is super important. So I would say, next to funding the ESPs, to fund that 4th custodian in the buildings would be a priority to me.
And there is the option that I might be able to, look at, if I can only bring back 1 custodian, maybe I can flip them between the 2 buildings, that type of thing, so that we can make sure that we get some help on it. I mean, we'll be as creative as we can to move through. But the other part that I wanted to mention at the high school is that part of the reimbursement rate that we got, that's 59.6%, was because of our maintenance plan that was put in. And so we want to follow that maintenance plan of the high school, middle school. And so that's why I don't want to reduce any of that. I want to make sure that we don't lose any percentage moving forward, because over the next course of a year or 2, we will be audited by MSBA to say, are they doing what they said they were doing with those buildings? And, okay, the reimbursement.
But I think with that new computer system, and
Yes.
particular system,
Right.
it will make it a lot more efficient, so that
Right,
we
and
know
having
that
a,
they
and
know
having the
this is gonna go
schools
forward.
having the school's operations manager will be of assistance as well, so.
Be a lot more organized.
Is there any more discussion on the motion for option 2? Okay, so Ms. Hames, why don't we do roll call vote, please?
Mr. Vecchia?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Holden?
Yes.
Ms. Callis?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes. So unanimous passes. So still, we need to make a motion and approve the bottom line budget. So I'll make a motion for approving $21,956,909 for the fiscal year 16-17 school department budget. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Capabianco. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great, thank you, unanimously passes as well.
Give you my budget tomorrow so you can see what it
All right, where are we at here?
Sullivan,
Yes.
I just want to thank Mr. Macero, because we went around and around in the last few weeks going through that budget, trying to find efficiencies and trying to save money. It was nearly impossible. So today, to get that option and to talk to you today on the phone, both Susan and Mr. Macero, to see if we could do something with that circuit breaker money. I just think that having those 2 options and finding the way to fund this was great. I just want to thank you for all your effort on it.
Yes, Mr.
If I could
Capabianco.
just say quick, I really enjoyed this process, my first, year or so on the school committee, and I think we all work together. I don't look 27 anymore because of my hair, but I think this was a real team effort, and thanks to Mr. Macero for really hearing us out. We had some great conversations over the last few weeks, so I'm really happy we were able to accomplish.
Anybody else? Good. All right.
I've got a finance manager, too.
Yes, Mr. Perez, thank you for all your efforts as well. Vandalism policy under unfinished business. This is the second reading tonight, correct?
No, there was never any reading.
There's
If I
never a
may,
reading. Oh, wait a minute, that's what you talked about tonight.
Right,
Okay.
but there was no change, right? So I guess we can,
Oh, didn't we? Oh, there was no
No, we
change?
put it on the building and ground security.
Oh,
policy.
okay.
so the vandalism is,
And,
There's
it
nothing
could
to
be
vote
taken
on?
off because it's going to stay the same way.
Okay, so we'll move on. Buildings and ground security policy, so we'll leave that on the agenda for next meeting.
Right.
Okay, so transfer of 151 Pauline Street, this building we're sitting in, to the town of Winthrop. Mr. Macero, do you want to comment on that?
So I'd like to be able to transfer this building to the town of Winthrop on September 1st, 2018. 16, and I will need a vote from the school department to authorize that.
I'll make a motion that we turn it over to the town of Winthrop on that date.
Second.
Okay, so motion to turn over the school building, second by Mr. Vecchia.
Is there any discussion?
We can now have discussion, yes.
Just a question, maybe to Mr. Driscoll or whoever. Do you know when we'll get, have an idea of what's gonna happen with this building after we turn it over?
There's a committee that's looking at this
And
building.
do you know when their recommendation might be, just roughly?
I don't know.
No.
Okay.
It's, the committee was created and it will last for 1 year. It's under the statute that created it, so it could go on as long as a year. But it's also looking at more than just this building, it's also looking at the Center Business District. So, but it could be as long as a year.
Yes, Mr. Holden?
Is there any reason why we need to do this tonight? I mean, we're obviously going to sign it over to the town. Did the town need to know tonight, or?
No, I
wait
put
till
it
we're
on-
officially comfortable, know we're going into the new building and signed off?
Right, I mean,
but-
you can wait.
I
I
mean,
just
I think
wanted to
that's
get it
what
out
we
there.
I don't know.
We said that at the last meeting.
I know, I just
don't know
I just don't want to keep kicking it down the road because it's a foregone conclusion, and I don't think if we went over by a couple of weeks or something that they're going to lock
Charge
the
us
doors
rent?
on us.
We're
So
moving in on the second.
well, that's good.
This is your
We don't have to
anniversary.
evict us then.
All right, I think we could proceed, and then if something comes up, I'm
Yeah.
sure the town would be more than understanding. Correct?
I do have
Yeah.
a thought, since this is an older building, I'm wondering if we should either have it lead tested before we hand it over or recommend to the town that they have it lead tested, because the pipes might be a little bit old. I know our water is.
So
good, but
Mr.
the pipes
Calla
might be-
was going to take care of that.
He was. Mr. Callow was going to take care of that.
Oh, okay,
Um,
super.
We were in the process.
In
now.
all of the town buildings, not
Right.
just the
Yeah.
schools.
We've got a lead
Okay.
testing program that's
Right.
going through
Through
every building.
MWRA,
Okay,
right?
great.
Anything else? Any more discussion on turning over the building?
I would do a roll call on this, just so that.
Okay. Ms. Hames, would you call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Vecchia?
Yes?
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Holden?
Yes.
Ms. Callis?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes. Thank you, passes unanimously. Next on the agenda, we have some surplus items that we need to vote on as determining them surplus. They are from the Food Service Department at Arthur T. Cummings, one Trosland 4-door reach-in refrigerator, serial number T2999340G01, and the Gorman-Fort Banks, one Trosland 4-door reach-in refrigerator, serial number T085450C01. Both items have not been working for several years and could not be repaired. So is there a motion to turn them into surplus, Mr. Perrin? I'll second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, unanimously passes. Also under unfinished business, we have the coach and athletics handbook that I think were referred to the athletic subcommittee.
Yeah, we're not ready to
Okay.
address that yet.
So we'll leave those on. And we are back to public comment. Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to... Oh, wait a minute, sorry.
My name is Brad
Go
King,
right
I'm
ahead.
a homeowner and a parent, 85 Beach Road. There was mention before about either repairing the water heater in the Fort Bank School, the Foreman School, or replacing the water heater. And it was either $9,000 to repair it or $42,000 to replace it.
The boiler.
The boiler. I would recommend replacing it. You're gonna spend $9 grand, get 2 years out of it, and end up spending $52,000 overall. Just spend the money and replace it. That's what I recommend.
Thank you. Any other public comment tonight?
I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's clear you put a lot of hard work and thought, and you're listening to the community, and you're really dedicated, and I'm touched. And to Superintendent Massaro for all the hard work you put into looking at the budget again and making this happen. I'm really proud to be in this town and to have you all working for the schools. Thank you.
I second the word, thanks.
Is there any other public comment? Thank you. On to public relations. Mr. Vecchia?
Gypsies in town. Started last week.
Self-promote.
There's 4 more shows, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday at 2 o'clock. The cast is outstanding. The production is great, the music is awesome, they have a full orchestra, so if you get a chance, it's right next door. And John, is this gonna be the last official play, do you think, in that building?
I think so. As long as the school is
Yeah.
running it. After
Yeah,
September,
I mean, that's part of.
right, after September, there'll be, the town is up, decides who
does
but you have to check
whatever.
out Mr. Vecchia in the show. 'cause
And what
he's in
role
the
will you be
show.
playing, Mr. Vecchio?
Oh, I'm Pop. And then I'm also a guy that eats a lot of Chinese food. But in all seriousness, the cast is really outstanding. They did a hell of a job. And
We do have Winthrop students that are in the show.
Yep, absolutely.
And they are wonderful.
Awesome.
Tickets are $25 for seniors and students. They're $20. You can get them on online at winthropplaymakers.com, or you can get tickets at the door.
Thank you. Mr. Capianco?
I attended the ice cream social at the Gorman Fort Bank School a few weeks ago. I really had a great time. And I went to the car wash at the ATC Student Council. And thanks to Lillian Sullivan and her friends, my car looks brand new.
It is brand new.
Still looks brand new.
Still looks
Still looks-
Ms. Perrin?
I've got nothing.
Just in terms of public relations, I just think that before I was on the school committee, I was a mother who wrote a lot of emails, and Mr. Massaro can vouch for that. And take as many opportunities as you can to get involved. And one great way to get involved is to spend even an hour a week volunteering at the schools. So if you hear of things over the summer, I know the kindergarten social is usually third, fourth weekend in August, right before school starts. If you're a new parent new to the district, we'll be announcing that date, but I don't know if anyone has it offhand now. Mr. Massaro, do you know when that date is? Jen?
August 21st.
August 21st, so that's the, and that's in the playground at Gorman Fort Banks, no?
It's usually a Sunday, isn't it?
Hopefully the soccer field.
Soccer field.
Oh,
right.
okay.
It went over better.
They're expanding.
Oh, I forgot one thing.
Go ahead.
The vote.
I don't think you could say
You're allowed to
that.
mention it.
Are we allowed to mention that?
I don't think you can.
There is an election tomorrow.
Certainly
There's
is.
one tomorrow. And so the kindergarten orientation social is always super fun, and definitely get involved. It's a great way to start meeting parents in your grade, and I believe there's still a couple of official positions on the PTOs if you're interested in giving even more than an hour of your time. So get in touch with Jen, probably would know some information. Thank you. Mr. Holden?
Good.
Ms. Callis? President Driscoll?
I'll have just one thing, it's not specifically school-related, but it's town-related, and that is there's a third DCR meeting this Wednesday evening at the Senior Center at 7 o'clock, so I'd recommend that everybody try to attend that. I think that's massive. Kind of
Bring your own beach chair.
Yeah. There's a crowd up.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second? Second by Mr. Vecchia. All in favor say aye. Any discussion? Say aye. All in favor? Opposed? Call it a meeting.